The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
It's time to go on the mat. The Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
Welcome to On the Mat. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with a man who is worth his weight in gold, Doug Van Gelder.
I would be the world's richest man if that were the case.
Well, you are, because you have friends. It's a wonderful life. You're
it is
George
a wonderful
Bailey.
life.
You're like George Bailey a little bit.
Am I?
Well, just in the philosophy at the end there. I mean, it comes through.
Well,
you
that's
realize.
a nice thing to say about somebody,
Yeah.
Kyle. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a big fan of that movie.
I am too. It's a great flick.
It's not a complete Christmas if I don't get to see that.
Well, on that note, my mom cannot watch that movie. She hasn't watched it beginning to end because she knows how Mr. Potter treats George Bailey, and she can't
hates him that
stand
much?
it. Yeah, she just can't stomach it. And the one year she invited me, she said, "Kyle, I'll finally do it. I'll watch it with you." I was out of town, so I didn't have a chance to. And it is hard to stomach. I don't like Mr. Potter either.
No, that was the point of being the villain.
I know it is the point, but it's hard to stomach him cheating and doing all those things.
It's well, I won't go there.
Well, it's part of the
I won't
reality.
go there. I had something smart to say about it, but I won't.
Well, maybe you can just save that for when we talk about writing time again.
Yeah.
And you can just get fired up for that.
Load it all up for that?
Yeah,
okay.
Just get loaded up for your rant on writing time. Hey, we talked a little bit about Corey Clark, but I want to make sure we give him his due, because it's special not only to win a national championship, but where he is in the scope of Iowa wrestling history, because it's important that
He's the only one that's dating a woman gold medalist.
Well, silver medalist. You're a little off. Allie Reagan you're talking about. She was silver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got it off.
I made her gold in my books.
Well, that's cool. Hey, and both are going to be at our Dan Gable Celebrity Golf Tournament on Friday, June 23rd. So,
Super.
Our headline celebrity, we haven't talked about this much, should excite both of us. Stephen Neal.
Well,
is
it does
coming
me.
out
You know that.
From California. And before we get to Corey Clark, just talk about sitting next to Stephen Neal. Here's our favorite wrestler, at least mine, since I've followed. He's my favorite wrestler.
He bought his brackets on the first day and filled them out every day religiously.
Ultimate wrestling fan. Sat there through the entirety of every session. And here's a guy that's 10 years in the NFL, 3 Super Bowl rings, 99 World Wrestling Champion, and he's just a fan. I love that guy.
Yeah.
He is the consummate wrestling fan, and it was so fun to see. And that you happen to be in the same row with him, it only makes sense. How does it get better than that for you?
Well, it doesn't for me.
Yeah. So he's Stephen Neal. Some people will just kind of relate to him. They say, "I don't know who Stephen Neal is." Well, he's the guy that beat Brock Lesnar in the 1999 NCAA Tournament Finals. So that maybe gives you the aha moment on how good he is and what he was able to accomplish.
I know there's a lot of young heavyweights out there that know who he is.
Well, they should.
You know, there's I talked to the kid from North Dakota that came down, high schooler, that came down and wrestled at Wart. And you know, he was recruited to play football, too, but he said he ended up taking the wrestling scholarship, and he says, it's kind of complicated and all that. And I said, well, maybe you can be the next Stephen Neal. He said, wouldn't that be super?
That's fantastic.
So they know what he did.
Well, and he had a real tip of the cap to Tolly Thompson, who was one of his rivals during college, and then a little bit international. Tolly, of course, from Janesville. Tolly was a 95 NCAA champion. 2005 world bronze medalist. They had a great match in the semifinals in 1997 at the Unidome. Neal ended up winning at 5-4, but Steve Neal says, I did not deserve to win that match. Tolly, under today's rules, would have won it. And the way he was wrestling, as good as he was wrestling, he would have beaten Kerry McCoy in the finals, who Stephen Neal eventually lost to. The rules were such that you step out of bounds, you're out of bounds. And so the rules kind of favored that style where you weren't, if you weren't in great condition, you could get away with a little bit more. And tip of the hat from Stephen Neal. I think he even mentioned that when he was on our show several weeks ago or several months ago about his admiration for Tolly Thompson. So, again, I've never seen a heavyweight class like that in 97 when you have Kerry McCoy, you have Stephen Neal and Tolly Thompson 1, 2, and 3. That says it right there. How great that was. All of them ended up being medalists at the World Championships. That's pretty deep, Doug.
Yeah,
pretty
that
deep.
is.
But on to Corey Clark, we have the gold standard in high school wrestling in Iowa, of course, is being a 4-time state wrestling champion. And Corey Clark is one of those individuals, was at Southeast Polk. But rarefied air for him in that he is just the 5th of those 4-time state champions to win an NCAA championship. The others were Joe Gibbons, Jeff McGinnis, Eric Juergens, Jay Borschel, and now Corey Clark. Corey Clark, the first to reach the finals 3 times, 4-time All-American. I believe only one other person had done that, actually 2. Joe Gibbons and Eric Juergens had done that. So Corey Clark, just the 3rd 4-time state champion to be a 4-time All-American. Great career. Those are the stories you like out of the state of Iowa, to go through a great wrestling career in high school and then parlay that into the national scene. Great job by Corey Clark. I'm proud that he was able to accomplish that. The state legislature, the governor recognized him after the accomplishment and had a Corey Clark Day, which I thought was fantastic. Terry Brands was there for that. But kudos for representing Iowa well. That's what you strive for, and he got it done. And he
injury and all,
yeah. Even more so with the adversity that he overcame to get that NCAA championship.
Yep.
And I think that what Dan Gable had said 2 weeks ago on the show just was a tribute to him and how they really had to craft his training and adapt his style so that he could win that NCAA championship. And Dan knows about that too, being injured in the 1972 Olympics.
Absolutely.
And having to...
Comes from experience.
Yeah, and adjust with that knee.
He's not the first one to have done it for, another one that probably comes to mind is the guy from Decorah.
Oh, Lee Fullhart.
Lee Fullhart. I mean, you talk about an injury, that knee was gone, wasn't it?
Well, I think you're thinking of the guy he beat, John Kading, from Oklahoma in 1997. I don't know I don't remember his knee being
Lee Fullhart
gone.
being bad?
Well, Lee Fullhart beat John Kading at the 97 NCAA championships, and John Kading's knee was completely blown. His ACL was blown in the first round.
I thought Fullhart wrestled all season with just no knee left, basically.
Maybe, and I just don't remember it. You could be right about that. If it was probably more the 99 season, his senior season. Okay. I'm sure he had an injury of some sort, but yeah, I'll look into that and see. What I remember is John Kading wrestling on a blown ACL and wrestling through the 97 tournament here at the Dome as well. So some great stories of overcoming what seems like an insurmountable injury and doing exceedingly well. But I saw in Corey Clark what I saw the year before with Nico Megaludis at 125 pounds when he beat Thomas Gilman. Megaludis was down to his final chance, and he was not going to lose that NCAA championship match in the finals. He absolutely willed himself to that. And I saw the same thing out of Corey Clark. He was not going to leave being a 3-time finalist. He just was not going to.
That wasn't in his makeup.
Yeah, he was going to ride and ride and ride until he got that championship win, and he was going to get through it, injury and all. And that's why it's great to know the history. And hey, I learn more and more all the time how big of a deal it is to be a 4-time state champion, because Nick Moore, who is a 4-time state champion in Iowa, he works up in Waverly, so he's local right now. And he does a lot of sales calls. That plays well with wrestling fans. Are you the Nick Moore? Hey, people remember that. You're one of 25 in the state. That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
To have that. And especially in a state that values the sport.
That's how many there 4-timers there are, is 25.
Yeah. From my count here, 25. Carter Happel was the last, or the most recent. So
is it Steenley's the first one?
Steenley's was the first one.
Yeah. Was that 61?
That was 62 was 62? That final season, yep. So
I think there was only two weight. I know there was only 2 weight classes. There may have been just one when he won that. I mean, not weight classes.
Oh, classes.
Actual classes.
Yeah. That's correct. Just 2 at the time. And what's cool is he won at the West Gym in Cedar Falls, Iowa. That's where he did that. And there's so much great history that happened in Waterloo and Cedar Falls. And as we get to have our show today, we're going to reflect on some major history and talk about some current history. We're going to have Luke Moffitt on the show. We can't leave out one of those national championship coaches. Iowa had 3 team national championships this season. We had the other 2 coaches on last week. We had Eric Keller and Nick Mitchell on. This week, we're going to have Luke Moffitt, the head wrestling coach at Iowa Central. And then
junior college national champ.
Correct, junior college national champ. And then we're going to have Tom Kettman on the program. He was the head wrestling coach at Gilbertville Don Bosco for 11 years, and he's going into the Glenn Brand Wrestling Hall of Fame of Iowa in June. So as our tradition, we get all of the Hall of Famers on the show. So we're starting that now after the NCAA tournament, having Tom Kettman on to talk about his career.
I can remember Tom wrestling in high school.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. He wrestled Todd Gear from Grundy Center.
Oh, yeah?
Ended up being a district court judge and stuff. So,
and it's neat though with Tom Kettman. I didn't know
he is a cool guy.
He's a cool guy, but I didn't know that he went to Loras until T.J. Miller got hired there.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so to me that shows the impact that T.J. Miller is having on the program. Is that now that he's gotten hired, I want to know more about the history of Loras. I want to know who went there, and so immediately all those champions from the past become relevant now. Just because T.J. Miller's there.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of that he's a Cedar Falls High School grad. I think that's fantastic. And they overachieved unbelievably this season. And I think that's a big reason why is because he got them believing.
I knew he was destined to be a coach in 9th grade.
Well, you're taking credit for it. I know.
Grade. No, I'm not.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding with you.
I just
roll with it. Roll with it.
Just took him down there to a tournament down for it was freshman sophomore tournament or something down at Marshalltown, and you get several matches going at the same time. TJ just jumped right in there, and would sit in the coach's corner, and he'd do pretty soon it was like, let's go ask TJ, see what he'd do. So I mean he has been a student of that sport for a long time, thanks to his dad.
Yeah, and you know why. Hey, we got to make sure we cover this because we're getting excited here about things. Big news out of Ames, Iowa. Brent Metcalf hired as a volunteer assistant coach. Mike Zadek's going as an assistant coach. And now you have Derek St. John there. So you have 4 Iowa guys, 4 University of Iowa guys.
I wonder how that's sitting with some of the long-time donors.
Well, I don't think anyone cares right now because they want to
get some wins.
Yeah, they had 1 point, so you're not going to be complaining about the product and how he's going to go about it. And so, again, we have to make mention of the 3 Division I programs in the state of Iowa. All 3 are led by national champions from the University of Iowa. So that says a lot about the direction of where our state's going. I think it's a fascinating hire that Brent Metcalf is there. He was at USA Wrestling in a position for a while and decided that wasn't going to be for him. Came to Ames, Iowa, going to be part of the Kevin Dresser staff. And when you look across the board, to me, it makes a big statement when you're hiring Iowa guys like that we are now going after Iowa. I mean, he said that in the press conference, Kevin Dresser did, but now he's saying that through his actions that he's bringing guys on board that they're going after.
And that's one thing you can't take away from the whole mix is that Gable graduated as a Cyclone. So
yeah, it is funny. Yeah, that's a great point. So you have a Cyclone that built the Iowa wrestling dynasty, made it huge, made it this product that
became the JR of the sport.
Yeah, he is a huge. He's the reason that Iowa wrestling is what it is, and so it comes full circle now. Iowa State has an Iowa grad, and it's only fitting that he's from Humboldt, Iowa. He was from nearby, and talking about that, it's a neat connection that transition's being made. Your thoughts initially on the Metcalf move, knowing that when you talk about the Tom Brand's legacy, and you look at all of the wrestlers that have been through the program when Tom Brands has been the head coach, number one in my head that equates to Tom Brands is Brent Metcalf. He's been his most popular, most dynamic wrestler by far.
He was one that he brought from Virginia Tech, correct?
Correct. He did. So there's another angle, too. I mean,
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that angle, Doug. Here's a guy that was at Virginia Tech. Kevin Dresser replaced Tom Brands at Virginia Tech. Now he's at Iowa State after being at Virginia Tech, and now you have Brent Metcalf part of the fold.
The connections are never ending.
Yeah, it's a merry-go-round of wrestling moves. Mike Zadek's going to be there too, so you have Zadek,
now Mike was with him at Virginia Tech.
He
correct?
was, yeah, he was at Virginia Tech.
Was St. John?
St. John was there too. So you have Montana, you have Iowa, and you have Michigan. So it's a nice product for the recruiting front.
Absolutely.
And of course, Kevin Dresser has a lot of connections in Virginia still, and so it's a bold move. I think it's going to be great for the excitement of the state of Iowa and wrestling.
There's no animosity between Mike Zadek and the Brands boys, is there?
You don't think so?
I was being facetious.
No, he's joking. Of course, yeah. Zadek was there and was let go and got hired at Virginia Tech after a
basically kept Morningstar instead of Zadek, correct? Or not?
Well, remember Morningstar was at Wisconsin for a year.
Okay.
So he was out there, and then they brought Morningstar in, and so it's getting fun. This is what you want.
Yeah, it's deep now.
Yeah, this is why
this is going to be a nice scandalous novel before it's all over with.
It's fun, and then Virginia Tech made their hires. Frank Molinaro.
For Dresser, it all started with Gable sleeping in his bed.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Frank Molinaro, a Penn State NCAA champion, going to Virginia Tech, as is Jared Frayer. So Tony Roby, who's now the head wrestling coach at Virginia Tech, he was the assistant coach there, taking over as the head coach. He rounded out his staff. And then Pat Santoro, who was in the mix or being mentioned as a possibility for the Pittsburgh job. They're still looking for a coach. Decided he's going to stay at Lehigh. So Lehigh is going to continue to have the services of Pat Santoro, which I think is an excellent move. I think he's an excellent coach, and he's the right fit for that. He grew up in the Lehigh Valley, although he was a two-time NCAA champ for Pitt, which would have been the connection there for that program. I think it's good that is there. So a coaching hire still looming. I think that the coaching hires are always a fascinating part of the sport.
Well, we know how it enlivened the sport several years back when the whole thing went down with Cale Sanderson and Brands and all that crew. So
yeah, it did.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I would say that moment was outside of a wrestling match was the seminal moment in our sport because it triggered everything. Once Russ Hellickson left at Ohio State, that just started this whirlwind of activity because the Ohio State job was open, and then it was just dominoes from there. And we are still a sport that is a product of that decision. Once Russ Hellickson left at Ohio State, look at what has happened. Ohio State's won a national championship, Iowa's won national championships, and Penn State's won national championships, and all of that's been a merry-go-round of those coaches going to those programs. And second only to Gable and Sanderson going to Penn State and Iowa. I think that move when Brands and Sanderson went to Iowa and Iowa State that same week when Zaleski was out and Douglas was out, I think that was bigger than just Gable going to Iowa because it was such huge news and pretty unexpected. We got to take our first break. We get another national championship coach from the state of Iowa. Luke Moffitt is next on the mat.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When all you want is sports, all you need is 1650 The Fan.
We are back on the mat. 1650 The Fan. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. Along with Doug Van Gelder, our guest. Doug started the trend for the state of Iowa in 2017. Pretty neat piece of history. There's only been 3 times where there have been multiple national team championships of the 3-in-a-row variety. The first time was 2008 with Iowa, Wartburg, and Iowa Central. 2009, the same schools. This year it was Wartburg, Grandview, and Iowa Central, but you see the trend there. Iowa Central was part of all of those. We have the head wrestling coach of that program, and he knows I'm going to say this. He's a simple kind of man. Luke Moffitt, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. Great to have you on. Before we get to your season, let's talk about what's going on in the state of Iowa. You see some of the moves, Kevin Dresser coming in, Mike Zadek's getting hired, Brent Metcalf is now an assistant coach. You like what you're seeing right now with the state of Iowa and where wrestling's going?
Definitely. I said this to a buddy of mine the other day. It'd be nice to see Iowa State, or you and I and they're, all in the top 5 or, top 10, and brings a lot of good attention to the state of Iowa, and I think helps all the programs here.
What are conversations like in Fort Dodge? Fort Dodge is a big wrestling community, but do you get a lot of fans wanting to talk wrestling and talk shop and talk about the latest in the state of Iowa?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, pretty much everywhere you go, someone wants to chat and talk about wrestling.
And when you have that environment, is that fun for you to be in Fort Dodge and just know that, hey, I'm in a spot that people care about the sport?
It is. It's great because we bring a lot of guys in from all over the country to wrestle here, and they don't really have a grasp of it until they're here. They think it's crazy that we have wrestling on TV, and it's such a big deal here.
Now, one of your assistant coaches, Troy Bennett, man, I got to think you guys are talking shop quite a bit about the sport. He has a lot of opinions. Always fun to talk to.
Oh yeah.
Great guy. Hey, we're on the line with Luke Moffitt, head wrestling coach at Iowa Central. It was a close one. Came down to heavyweight. When you have that situation where it does come down to heavyweight and you have to win, take us through that 2 to 3 hours when you're in the finals and you know that every match, every point's going to be crucial.
Just heading into it, I grabbed those 4 guys that we had in the finals and I said, just go out and take care of your job, do what you came here to do, and we'll win the team title. And I was pretty confident in that. If we go 4 for 4, we'll walk out of there team champions. And because we went head to head with NEO and Clackamas at 2 of those weights, so that's a pretty good way to handle it. Is just go in and take care of business, win your matches. We won the first one head-to-head against Clackamas and then lost the second one to NEO. So then, we might need bonus points out of Racer. We might need bonus points out of Tommy Peterson, and we're probably going to need some help along the way. Maybe one of those guys gets knocked off. NEO and Clackamas went head-to-head at another weight, so it was kind of juggling act, I think. I don't know, somebody told me the lead change for the team title switched like 4 or 5 times just in the finals.
Well, and it goes back even some more history. In 2002, you were part of the team that won a national championship, and Cain Velasquez is on that team, and it came down to heavyweight, and you guys won by a point. I read somewhere that you wondered what that was like to have it come down to heavyweight, and now you get to experience it as a coach. Compare and contrast what that's like to have a teammate to do it, and now as a coach, it happened for you that way.
Yeah, I was just kidding when I said that. I didn't really want to find out that way. But, it happened, and I joked with our heavyweight, and we talked about it early in the year because our guys come in, they ask a lot of questions about past teams, and I brought that up. I go, you never know, it might come down to heavyweight this year, and Tommy, our heavyweight, was like, oh, better not, better not, and it did. So it was kind of a weird deal. But, I knew with him, he just got to, he was chomping at the bit to get on the mat. He's like, Coach, can I get on the stage now? And they hadn't even started introductions. And I'm like, sure, just go, get up there. He was like letting a wild animal out of his cage to wrestle that match.
And I just have to think that the fan support you get having it in Council Bluffs, and you guys do get good crowd travel, which it would make sense since you are in Fort Dodge and get to go to Council Bluffs. But how much is it rewarding to win championships, but then to have fans there to share it with?
It's great. We had a huge fan base that came down, and it's the same. It's the same core people every year, and then you get new parents that come into it. So it's we get a pretty good following. We had people from all over the country that came in. Some former wrestlers came in from some of the past teams, came to watch. So it's definitely an advantage, I think, having a good fan base there.
In total fans, do you feel like it was good participation just on the whole that showed up for the actual tournament itself?
Yeah, and I think it's growing. I think Council Bluffs is a great place to host this. It's anytime you can, be in, keep it somewhat central, in the country, and Iowa's a great wrestling state. There's nothing really going on that weekend with the exception of, I guess, the AAU Kids State, I think, is that weekend. But, it frees up the weekend for people to come out and watch good wrestling in Council Bluffs.
We are on the mat with Luke Moffitt, head wrestling coach at Iowa Central Community College. Luke Moffitt now won his sixth national championship, so he's in rarefied air. He tied within the state Harold Nichols and Nick Mitchell, who also have 6. We're talking about the most recent championship you won, which happened to be this season. Danny Bush, a guy that I thought was going to win it, ended up getting 8th place. What do you think happened there?
Quarterfinals, it came down to the wire. He was up by 2 points going into the third period, and there was a what I call a controversial takedown. I went to challenge it, and he scored. He got his 1 immediately after the takedown that they awarded, and I went to challenge it, and they said I waited. They couldn't review it because I think there's only 15 seconds left in the period, and I went over to the table. So it ends up, the match ends up going on and getting into overtime, and he lost the match. But after that, he kind of he's like, I'm going to pin my way through the backside, and he came back and won a big match. He had his eyes set on being a national champ, and losing in the quarters, you have to come back next match and win to get on the podium, and he did that for us. So at that point, you never know how guys are going to react, because you just hope they'll keep in mind we're in a team race too, and try to maybe wrestle for the team, get us some points.
Well, junior college is so interesting and fascinating that you have such a dynamic that everyone's coming in with a different story. You only have 2 years possibly to have them there. Danny Bush is a unique story. He started at Wartburg. His dad, Pete Bush, is the head wrestling coach at Davenport Assumption, was a national champion for the University of Iowa. When you get someone like that, how do you keep them engaged and motivated just to get through a season? And especially after a tough loss like that, how do you make sure that you continue to keep him motivated to stay in the sport?
There's not a whole lot I have to do with him. He's a super competitive guy. Every day in practice, if we're wrestling, he's keeping score. We're both trying to win. We've battled, him and I, quite a few times, and he's a competitive guy, and it's not just about wrestling. He's just competitive by nature, and really wants to win.
On the mat with Luke Moffitt, head wrestling coach at Iowa Central Community College. Nick Mitchell, who we had on the program last week, coached his 6th national championship in a row. He said the administrative support at Grandview is unprecedented. They support him unbelievably. At a junior college, it might be different. How good is your administrative support?
It's second to none. They, support us 100%. And at the same time, they're trying to develop a culture here where athletics are going to be successful. We think we've won the Nattica Cup like 7 out of the last 8 years, which is basically the number one, means you're the number one athletic program in the junior college ranks in all sports. So, that's important to them. And if we go out and win a national title, we score points towards that title there. So, they're great. Our administration comes down to support us at the national. Even, some of the board members, college president gets out. They're really involved.
And as we mentioned, the tradition in Fort Dodge, that it is a passionate wrestling community. Do you feel like a lot of those fans that might be the high school wrestling fan or the parents of those fans, they get involved with Iowa Central Wrestling? What's the mix of your fan base?
It's just Fort Dodge Fort Dodge people in general. I mean, we do get some of the parents. I mean, a lot of these guys have, started out in the youth wrestling club, which is in our room, a couple nights a week. And, I've seen these guys grow up. I mean, since the time I've been here, this is 13 years I've been here. Most of these guys that are in high school now are, 4 or 5 years old, when I started. So I've literally watched them grow up, and, we've grown together, I guess.
The most fascinating part of any junior college, but yours in particular, is just the idea of recruiting. And you guys are known as a mixed martial arts stopping point, that a lot of guys that have gone on to great careers in mixed martial arts have gone to Iowa Central. When you get calls, and I think you even said this, a lot of people ask you about mixed martial arts and have that question. When you're on a recruiting visit and you're going out to people or people contacting you, how often does mixed martial arts get brought up?
It does get brought up from time to time, and and I think just having John and Kane and Colby and Joe Soto and like all those guys that have came through and done well. I think a lot of people enjoy watching. Most wrestling people enjoy watching MMA. So, and it's kind of a new trend when guys get done wrestling. They're pretty good shape to get in. Start doing MMA.
Was that the case for you when you were at Iowa Central? I mean, it was still pretty new. Did you guys consider that at all as a career path?
No, we just played around. I mean, we did some of the submission stuff, and we were just playing around. I never really thought about it, but it's a lot of guys have taken that path and have been pretty successful.
So do you guys show a little bit? Do they want you to take it up a notch and say, now it's our mixed martial arts practice? Do you have that element at all?
No. I mean, trying to make these guys the best wrestlers they can be is plenty enough. I guess Bradley Banks, who's a first-year assistant with us right now, he's fighting April 15th at the Wild Rose Casino. He's actively, going after an MMA career, and he's in the room. So, those guys see him getting extra workouts in, specifically in, mixed martial arts. So, it's around.
Now, you've been here at Iowa Central for a while, 6 national championship. You're doing great things. Is this a long-term job for you? Are you good being at Iowa Central until you decide to retire from coaching?
I don't know. I mean, I just try to take 1 year at a time and, see, if I'm here, the goals are going to remain the same. We're coming in, trying to put a team on the mat that can win a national title and ultimately take care of the guys that are here and get them where they want to be, whether that's Division I, D2, D3, NAIA, and support them in their goals and get their degrees. So as long as I'm here, the goals will be the same.
What's your biggest challenge as a coach?
Probably, just having guys in. You kind of get them where you want them, and then they're gone. And then having to start all over with, a group of fresh faces, and constantly having to recruit. Because, you don't have these guys real long period of time. So it's makes things interesting.
So a question that I get a lot, and I know Doug gets it ever since Penn State won a national championship with 5 champions, just a great job by Penn State, and they're all coming back, is what's Penn State doing right? And everyone says it's a new style of kid. They talk about millennials. Has the coaching game changed? Have you had to adapt on how kids want to be coached and need to be coached?
A little bit. I think you just have to be good at reading guys and figuring them out. And the sooner you can do that, the more progress you'll make. I've had guys that are real good at, if you're hard on them, they work harder. Other guys, when you're hard on them, they just shut themselves off to the world. So you got to kind of just figure guys out, what makes them tick and how you're going to get the most out of them in a short amount of time.
Do you get that from your athletes and coaches and even those people you talk to, or a lot of people asking you about Penn State?
A little bit. I think everyone involved in the sport, talks about Penn State just because they're the ones with the targets on their back. So I think everyone was shocked at how good of a tournament they had, and So yeah, they definitely they've set the bar a little bit higher for everyone else to catch.
Yeah. How's your body holding up? You feeling good?
Oh yeah.
You can still get out there and roll around a little bit?
I just don't like wrestling our heavyweight.
So you go up to 97, huh? You wrestle 197 pounder?
I'll grab those guys, but our heavyweight, he's pretty tough, and he doesn't stand around. He likes to score points. If I usually don't pick him as a partner, twice in 1 week.
So when, real quick, you guys wrestle Iowa during the season, do those guys get pretty mortified to wrestle the Hawkeyes at Carver?
I pretty much put it this way to them. They might. They probably aren't going to tell me if they are, but it's really a no-lose situation. I mean, a lot of the people watching that match aren't looking at it like, hey, the Iowa Central guy is probably going to beat the Iowa guy. Nobody's thinking that.
Yeah.
That most people are already counting you out. So if you can go out and compete hard and give yourself a chance to, be in a match or win a match, it's a no lose.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we've enjoyed having you on. Congratulations on another national championship and elevating Iowa's total to 61 and then eventually 63 with Wartburg. Great having you on, Luke.
Hey, thank you.
All right. Appreciate it. Tom Kettman is next on the mat, 1650 The Fan.
Log on and listen online at 1650thefan.com, the online home of 1650 The Fan.
We are back on the mat, 1650 The Fan. I am Kyle Klingman of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum, along with Doug Van Gelder. Our next guest, I think, is the one who would go by where Doug would sit at the West Gym and do the thumbs up or the thumbs down as though you were Caesar, if my memory recalls. But that's not the only reason we're talking to him. He's also a Hall of Famer. He's going into the Glenn Brand Wrestling Hall of Fame of Iowa on Saturday, June 24th. His credentials are off the charts: 12 state team wrestling championships, 5 traditional, and 7 duals during his 11 seasons as head coach at Gilbertville Don Bosco, 17 individual state wrestling champions, including 2 4-time state champions in Mac Ryder and Bart Ryder. He also coached his son, Taylor. He is the incomparable Tom Kettman. How are you, Tom?
Good. Thank you.
Hey, great to have you on the show. I was just talking with Doug about some of your high school wrestling career and then on to Loras. I thought it was cool that until T.J. Miller got hired, I really didn't even know you went to Loras. Why the decision to wrestle at Loras College?
I was looking at Loras and looking at Wartburg, and I had a couple older brothers that graduated from Loras, and they said they always liked Dubuque. And I went for a visit, and they kind of hooked me.
And has it been fun to see the resurgence? Loras had a great season, second in the Iowa Conference. TJ's done a good job. Do you feel like you're getting more connected with the program now that TJ's there?
Yes. TJ's, I think he's got everything going in the right direction, and I also know his assistant Trevor Kittleson real well.
Yeah.
And he was actually teammates with my son up at UNI, and it's good to see Loras getting on a roll a little bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully look for big things from him.
And when you look to the future, I know that it's got to be fun to see how they're doing and get involved with the golf tournaments and everything they have going. But you're best known for your time at Gilbertville Don Bosco, and you came after a legend in Dan Mashik. What was that like to make that transition, knowing you went from Mashik and then taking over for a great program that really is one that is known for in the state of Iowa?
Well, it was a little nerve-wracking at first. When Dan, I was his assistant for 19 years, and when he told me he was moving on, he goes, I think you would fit the position. And right away, I'm thinking those are some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, yeah.
and I had to do a little bit of soul searching, and I had to, check with my boss at work, and of course check with my boss at home, and never regret making the decision to be the head coach. That's for sure.
So it was a difficult decision. It wasn't something that you thought about, or was it something that kind of came up on you and you didn't even realize it? It sounds like you maybe had a little indecision on taking the job.
Well, I didn't. I always knew I was probably going to take it. I just wanted to be able to take it and even do half the job Coach Mashik did, because he built that program and has done such a phenomenal job with the program and getting the community behind him. And I wanted to be able to, carry on that tradition.
It is an unbelievable tradition, and I didn't fully realize until I came to a reception you guys had to kick off the season, and I saw the passion, and you see all of the state champions and all of the state finalists and all of the state place winners on the wall and what you guys have done. When you talk about it, how would you describe to just a general person what Gilbertville Don Bosco wrestling means?
Well, it means, we're of course getting very competitive in other sports now, winning state titles and whatnot, but wrestling kind of got all that going, I think, and we expect a lot out of the kids that make the commitment to come out for wrestling.
Yeah.
And we have such a coaching base down there, whether it's the pee-wee practices or the kids practices, the junior high, and the parents all get behind that. And they put a lot of faith in all the coaches down there, to have their son come out and work that hard to achieve a goal. Yeah, it's big expectations, and it's good, and we're not looking for state champs out of everybody. We're just looking to be part of the team, because in a smaller school, if you don't have the numbers, it can catch up with you. And, if you can fill every weight class, that's huge. And we treat the third string JV guy just as important as the two-time state champ, and try to reflect that back on him as part of the team. And to win team titles, you need those guys.
We are on the mat with Tom Kettman. He was the head wrestling coach at Gilbertville Don Bosco. He's going into the Glenn Brand Wrestling Hall of Fame of Iowa, class of 2017. His induction will be Saturday, June 24th. He's also going to play as a celebrity in the Dan Gable Celebrity Golf Tournament on Friday, June 23rd. Talking about the induction, congratulations on that. That's a big reason we're having you on the show, to say congratulations on a great honor. Thoughts on going into the Hall of Fame this year around?
Pardon me? What was
your thoughts on going into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, it's and thank you, by the way, for the offer. And going into it is just unbelievable. Especially being a Blackhawk County native, Waterloo. It's huge, and I go to the banquet every year, and just to look at some of the people that get inducted, it's like, what am I doing? Because there's some great people going into that, and I don't feel like I've earned that, but it's pretty overwhelming.
Well, look,
I'll wrestle you for it.
Pardon me.
I said I'll wrestle you for it. You deserve it, man.
Why, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, what is that like when you see Doug at the West Gym and he's sitting up there like Caesar? That's got to be pretty intimidating.
Well, I think I was listening to one of your shows when you were saying he comes in, and then it was the next meet on a Sunday up at UNI, and I walked by and kind of half bowed, and he knew right away what I was doing.
Yeah, I did.
Where it was coming from.
You've had a lot of fun with this, and it's got to be fun knowing that you got a chance to coach the Reiters. What a family, and just starting with the patriarch of that family, Doug Reiter, who's no longer with us. I have to think that when you talk about success at Gilbertville Don Bosco, Doug Reiter's got to be one of the first names that you're going to mention.
Oh, yeah, Doug, and the time he's put in, I mean, with his sons, and just the same goes, with all the little guys that are around his sons, and the time he spends with them is just unbelievable. The time he spent with them was just unbelievable, and his commitment and dedication,
because
not just to be a good wrestler, but just to be a good person.
Yeah, because he was instrumental in bringing that wrestling room along and doing a lot of pro bono work to make that happen, if I remember right.
Doug Ryder, we had a fundraiser to get a bunch of things done, second gymnasium and everything at school, and a new cafeteria, and we needed to raise so many $1 million, and the wrestling room was the last thing on the list, and we actually raised enough money to buy the material, but we didn't have enough to pay anybody to do it, and Doug Ryder says, Kettman, you take care of all the concrete work, and I'll get you a building. And I had several of I'm in the concrete business also, but I had several of my wrestlers that do concrete work, and they took it upon themselves. Eddie Fischels and those guys took it upon themselves and got the footings and the foundation and the floor poured. And Doug came in and pretty much put it up in a month and a half, and I think we actually kept track. We had over 99 to 100 different people volunteer their time, whether it's just hanging siding or shingling or doing the concrete work. So yeah, and Doug was instrumental. I mean, he took it upon himself and built us a trophy room. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's a nice place.
I think you just defined what Gilbertville Don Bosco Wrestling is right there with that. That absolutely defines who you are and what the program represents. And when I think about that, it's almost fictional in some ways because it's so unbelievable what you guys have accomplished, because you have these characters like the Writers and a guy like Crazy Ray Fox, who, if you had to describe Crazy Ray Fox to someone, what would that sound like?
Ray is instrumental in the Don Bosco program. He has been there through all of it. He was our first state champ, and when he came back to coaching, he just took it to another level with the high school kids, grade school kids. He runs the Pee Wee program. Wrestling season, Ray just gets re-energized, it seems like. He has a lot of fun and takes great pride in Don Bosco.
We're on the mat with Tom Kettman. He is going into the Glen Brand Wrestling Hall of Fame of Iowa, class of 2017. He's being inducted on Saturday, June 24th. Of course, he is the longtime Gilbertville Don Bosco head wrestling coach, 12 state team championships, 5 traditional, 7 dual titles. But one of the special individual state champions that you had was your son, Taylor. What was that like coaching him?
That was a pleasure. Freshman year, comes in, I think he's cutting a little too much weight, and actually I bumped him to JV because he was losing a little bit too much weight, and then I think he wrestled 140, and then he wrestled 140 in the beginning of the year, made weight. I think he got third at Keith Young. I think he got beat by Taylor Morris in the semifinals, actually, who might have been ranked like third in 3A that year. And then Taylor, I said, just get big, grow. And that summer he won state freestyle at 171. So he was
cutting too much.
He hit a growth spurt, and got big. And then he just kept getting bigger and stronger. And it was funny coaching Taylor because all through grade school it was, Dad, how come you don't push me? And I go, because you're in grade school.
Yeah.
And then when he gets to high school, Dad, why do you push me so hard? I go, I don't push you any harder than everybody else on the team, and he understood that. And for him to win a state title his senior year was reward in itself.
So you got out in 2011. Why the decision to stop being the head wrestling coach?
Taylor accepted an offer to wrestle at the University of Northern Iowa, and he graduated in 2010, and he goes, well, I'm probably going to be redshirted that first year anyway. Why don't you give it one more go? And I did, and then I stepped down, and I stepped down because I wanted to be able to follow Taylor, and Coach Hogan I knew would step right in and we wouldn't miss a beat, and he has, and he's doing an excellent job. Excellent job. Just all the coaches down there, just great people to work with, great people to be around.
Who was the most driven wrestler you had come through the Don Bosco program?
Most driven, I would probably have to say Mac Ryder.
Yeah? You saw something in him that was a little different?
Yep. When I was head coach, he was, Mac Ryder.
Yeah. And it's got to be cool to know that you coached 2 4-time state champs.
Yes, it is, and I'm related to him, too, so that's pretty neat.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, my first cousin is their mom.
Okay. Didn't even know that. So you got another family tie there. So you have a lot of these state champions that are relation. We talked about the tradition. I would have to think that a conversation in a Gilbertville bar pretty much is going to be dominated by the sport of wrestling. Oh yeah.
And the older guys like to say the 79 team was the best team we ever had, and the 2009 guys like to say that was the best team we ever had. So it makes for interesting conversation, and it's enjoyable to listen to the little. Well,
we're excited that you're going into the Glen Brand Wrestling Hall of Fame of Iowa class of 2017. You're going to be part of the Dan Gibble Celebrity Golf Tournament there, and then being inducted the next day. But thanks for taking a few minutes here, reminiscing with us, and certainly you're well deserving of this prestigious honor.
Well, thank you again for the honor, and I'll be looking forward to it. I don't know about the golf game. I don't know if anybody's going to want to golf with me, but...
Well, and then keep giving Doug a thumbs up at the wrestling meets. He needs that encouragement.
I will.
All right, keep looking for him up there. But, hey, thanks for joining us on the show.
Congratulations, Tom.
Congratulations, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
All right, that was Tom Kettman, world-class person. What a great human being, and great to catch up with him, and you really got an essence of what Gilbertville Don Bosco wrestling is all about. It's been a fun show. We had Luke Moffitt on the show. As always, we have Big Doug Van Gelder. I'm Kyle Klingman. You've been listening to On the Mat.
You've been listening to On the Mat, the Cedar Valley's longest-running radio show devoted entirely to wrestling. Brought to you by Rolling Ford and the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum on 1650 The Fan.
This show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.